Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, over me hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Focus on Liberia's premiere show. On point, it is 4 p.m. on the East Coast. It is time to be on point. Who's going to be on point today? Is it Waika Dukle? Is it Mr. Tao? Is it our Senator for Grand Jury in Waiting, Anthony Gay Sr.? Or my brother from all the way in the far east of of Africa, Ethiopia, Thomas B. Kennan. He's a man who knows mathematics. He's the man who knows how to analyze money and public policy. So he's here today. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about issues in Liberia. Some are on the docket, some are not. Let me go over some of the headlines real quick before I introduce our panelists. I think a few days ago, the former president, ex-president Johnson, said he said corruption remains very serious, and it's a serious problem as she discussed and cite disregard for the anti-graft laws in Liberia. That's the president. We're going to be talking about briefly, President Waka vetoes bills to establish 9 townships and 2 districts. This one, I support the president on this. We cannot keep making the wage bill big. People keep submitting bills of all kinds. Can you imagine 11 townships and districts? President vetoed that.
Beno.
Hello. Please, guys, if you are not on, please mute. The story of the week, I would say, is President Waka fired the head of the National Public Health Institute of Liberia, reacts to his dismal or questionable performance based on the board's recommendations. We are going to be talking about the World Cup who's in and who's out. But before we end the day, we'd like to pay tribute to one of Africa's greatest politicians, Riley Odinga. The great Odinga passed and was buried. I was fortunate to have met his daughter in Melbourne, Florida. Great politician, a thinker who made it almost to the promised land. He became prime minister, but never fortunate to be president of the republic. On the international scene, convicted ex-president Kabila rallied opposition to save the DR Congo from crisis. Then we're going to talk about the greatest gathering so far of the year, the CDC, the mighty coalition for CDC, coalition for democratic change, or Congress for democratic change. Either way you look at it, they put up a fight. Is Liberia becoming a two-party state? We will discuss. Let me brief you on Speaker Kuhn warned lawmakers against violating basic laws as he catalogs UP's ups and downs in the second quarter and warns anyone who speaks against the party outside the chamber, the person will be sanctioned. Is it constitutional? Also, Senator Edwin Snow slammed information minister over verbal attack on opposition and critics. He said, why should they use the national podium when they have their own private platform, radio stations, class reloaded? Why go on the national platform paid for by the Liberian taxpayer to insult other political leaders, party heads? Those are the trending issue. And then on our show today, we're going to talk about the corruption rear its ugly head in the recent GSC report. Will we finally see something done to curtail corruption in the Republic of Liberia? The report, as we can look at it, is damning. What can the government do? It goes all the way back to 1980, though. 1980. And we have dead, buried, and have risen controversial Elton Iboma deal once again denounced by the opposition Unity Party surfaces. What are we to make of this? The Walker administration is struggling. So here we are. Let me introduce our guests. With me are Mr. Joseph Tao from the great state of Texas. Houston, here we come. Tao, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hi to my fellow panelists and to our viewers. I'm glad to be here.
From the city of brotherly love, Anthony W. Gay Sr. Welcome, Mr. Gay.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a few minutes at the end of the day to shamelessly plug your ANC convention coming up in Atlanta. Let me welcome Honorable Thomas B. Kennedy. Thomas, welcome to the show. It's been a while.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure to see you all. And hi to all the listeners.
Excellent. And when you go across our 51st state, right across the water here, it's called Canada. Honorable Dukley, welcome. You are muted.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. It's a pleasure to be here.
Get in line and start turning in your paperwork. You will be a U.S. citizen soon. 51st Guys, please do us a favor, share this show. Those of us on the platform, please share this show on your platform in your different groups. Let's get this show started. Let's discuss. This is Liberia. It belongs to all of us. We all deserve to discuss it until we all see what we want to see, the great Liberia. Guys, let's start with the international news. Let's pay tribute for those of you who know Riley Odinga. I will start with Thomas. Riley Odinga was a stalwart. He came from a family that was basically like the Kennedys in the United States. His father was a founding member of the Republic of Kenya, and he was Vice President Jomo Kenyatta. So he has come a long way, a long lineage of power. But he came from the Luo tribe, and there has always been a fight between the Kikuyus and the Luo. And they did everything they could to make sure that he never ascended to the powerful position of leading the country. Finally, he was laid to rest. He died in India at the age of 80. What do you say about great men like O'Reilly Odinga, Mr. Odinga, Ralia Odinga?
Yeah, so I'm very close to Nairobi. Here is like 2 hours flight to Kenya. So the death of Raila was like a shock, because when he was taken to India for treatment, it's not something that was out in the public. So it's like we all just woke up in the morning, and these days with social media, whether it was on LinkedIn, because of the stature that he had in Kenya and also across the continent, social media was flooded with the news of his death. So we just like to express our deepest sympathy to the people of Kenya who have lost a statesman. But he wasn't only a statesman for Kenya, he was well respected in East Africa as well as the African continent. Let's not forget that he had even contested to be the chair of the AU Commission. So this is an election I think he lost last year, after many attempts to become president of Kenya, like you said. He tried. He's an engineer by training. He happened to have entered politics because of the background that you shared. His father and the father of the former president of Kenya, Kenyatta, they grew up in the same movement that liberated Kenya. And then for many years, he tried to become, even in the past election, the former president supported him against the current president, but he wasn't lucky to be able to get to that seat until his demise this week. So we can just say our sympathy to the people of Kenya. Kenya is a strong democracy. We're sure that they will manage to get other people who can step into his fold to be able to lead his party. I think there's somebody already they've appointed to be able to take charge since he left. So we can just say to the people of Kenya, sorry, and they should continue to do exactly what he did. He was a peaceful person, even regardless of the conflict that ensued in the previous election, I think around 2008 or 2009. But I think the democracy of Kenya is strong enough to be able to continue.
Excellent. Let me go to Honorable Dukley here. Dukley, the gentleman was very wealthy. When he graduated from engineering school in East Germany, came back to Kenya. He went into business. He's a top-notch engineer, opened different businesses. He went into the oil business, went into communications. I mean, you name it, he did it all. In one of his interviews, he says he had about $18.5 million in US in his account. And the government said he lied. He was richer than that because he was into all kinds of stuff legally. He didn't come into government. Well, he came from a very wealthy background, but he made money the old-fashioned way. He earned it. He passed. It's a great legacy, another story life lived.
Yeah, I think the demise of Raila Odinga is a loss to the continent, I must say, not just to Kenya, but to the African continent as a whole. And the reason why that is the case, in my opinion, is his style of politics. Now, as you just clearly articulated earlier, he was a fairly rich man, very wealthy, and it was all clear how he made his money. Nothing was hidden, nothing was controversial about how he got rich. That's one. The other thing is, Raila Odinga was in politics for the right reason, and he did exemplify those reasons for which he was in politics. And even prior to that, in his business dealings, He had previously worked in almost all the governments in different capacities, ministers of trade, minister of energy, and all that. And you know, the major problem with African politics, which is everything we do is along ethnic line. The Kikuyu are the larger tribe in terms of numbers, and they've had a strong monopoly on politics up until recently when they had the multi-party politics introduced. And so, even though he did have a very prominent footprint in the political landscape of Kenya, and yet he did not succeed in the 5 attempts he made at the presidency. He ran for presidency for the presidency 5 times, and each time he was not successful. And he served as prime minister. He was the second prime minister when they introduced that position. And when he served, when he served in that position, uh, it was meant to appease him. It was meant as a compromise of the alleged fraud he had claimed, and so they came up with this settlement where he would serve as prime minister. But this is where I think uh, other politicians, other people around Africa need to look at his example, his good example. Despite everything that happened to him, despite all what happened to him, he was always the voice of reason in everything he did. He was always the voice uh, to the betterment of Kenya. He was always non-violent in everything he did, despite some of his followers asking him to be violent, to be aggressive, to be forceful. So I think he is an example that other African politicians must emulate, must promote, must do everything they can to make sure that, because I mean there was a moment where the political landscape was ripe for violence, and violence would have led to what he actually wanted. We saw what happened in the Swat Valley and all other places around Kenya, and yet he insisted on his approach of nonviolence because he was in it for the right reason. He was in it for the people of Kenya. He was in it for Kenya as a nation. He wasn't in it for Raila Odinga himself. He wasn't in it to enrich himself. He wasn't in it for some selfish interest. And so that's why I said it's a loss to the continent, not only Kenya. And he was a great statesman, and you can see how the tribute were pouring in into Kenya upon his death. Like Brother Thomas said earlier, there was nothing said about his illness. There was nothing said about he going to India. Everything was kept on the wrap until suddenly, the social media exploded, telling us of his death. I was shocked. So really, this man was a man of integrity. This man was a man of substance, and he meant well for his country, and he meant well for his countrymen. I think it's a big loss to Africa.
Great. Mr. Tao, Mr. Odinga, we're talking about a name in all of Africa, but a royalty in Kenya. I was surprised when he died from a heart attack in India. Kenya is very advanced. They have everything that everybody wants. But he died in India.
Okay. So look, I look at this differently. And this is why. In the first place, when somebody, I don't know Mr. Odinga personally, but I know of the history of the Odinga and the Kenyatta family. When somebody died in Africa, for crowd to gather don't necessarily mean the person is good or bad. When Prince Johnson died, you saw the crowd. What we've gotten caught up into in Africa is that The person is bad until they die. And once they die, they're only bad in life, but they're always good in death. This have nothing to do with Idinga. So I'm just pointing out the fact that because a large crowd gathered, Grisby was a bad man on here causing corruption that was leading to people dying. The moment he died, everything was praises. Prince Johnson was a bad man. So I just wanted to point that out. And I want for my listeners to hear this. If a person is bad in life, let them be judged, let them be bad in death. That's actually the reality. Okay, having said that, you know, Mr. Odinga spent a lot of his time. First, his father and Jomo Kenyatta, as young men, they worked together in the struggle for the liberation of Africa, and specifically Kenya and Africa in general. But the moment power came, there was a fight, there was a split. And that struggle led to his father dying just about the same way. Ostracized, marginalized. And when his father died, he spent his entire life in the same thing. And this is what I got from it. And this message should go out to the whole of Africa. Imagine Mr. Kenyatta and the first Odinga, instead of spending the energies fighting each other, dividing Kenya between this tribe and that tribe, if they have come together to fight for the common goal of Kenya against the common enemy, the people that put you in chains, the people that tie your women to two horses, beat them, and make them run in opposite direction, and the pregnant woman split open and the baby fell out. The people that torture women, torture men, castrated them, if they could just work together, but they couldn't do that. The father spent his whole life that struggle, and he came in, and him and the son of that guy, plus the other president that came before, the Moab and the other people, they spent all their energy. And this is what we see across Africa. We spend our time fighting each other instead of coming together to fight the common enemy. And this is why Africa doesn't move forward. So look at Mr. Odinga spent all these years, his dad first, and then him. This is not unique to them. What this says here is that wherever there is this Western style democracy, it is divisive, and it is always going to divide you along ethnic line. Because what it does is here in the US that you are in, it is a divisive system where the whites are in one area, the blacks are on the side, the Hispanic, that is what you see. It is divisive. The only reason for which theirs is able to survive is because theirs is fake. It's a one-party state with two names, Democrat and Republican, controlled from one center. That is why it's able to survive. Unlike in Africa, we don't have the centralized control. So that is why you see the division is clear in the play and it affects the countries. But this is the message that I want to send. We should stop this. We should stop trying to fight each other. This fight for personal power. Let the power be used for the good of the nation. So Mr. Odinga struggled, and all I would say a lot of it was just wasted energy because he spent this many fighting amongst each other instead of coming together to fight the common enemy. And today, Kenya is still not that great in terms of the unity and to move forward in spite of everything that you see there.
Thank you.
So this is the message that I got from this.
Excellent. Honorable Gay, despite everything that Mr. Otawo has said, everybody in Africa, including Liberia in particular, we would like to be where Kenya is. So you have to give them some credit for what they have done, what they have achieved. It's not perfect, it's in progress, but they are way ahead of the game.
Absolutely. What you consider today Cash App and Apple Pay and all of that different mobile money service was birthed in Kenya. The M-Pesa today of the world was birthed in Kenya in 2007. prior to the world having mobile money service. So, like you said, Kenya, have gone ahead about and many other African countries. Kenya there are a lot of tech companies in Kenya. They are even deciding to build a village called the Silicon Valley of Kenya. But look, politicians are mostly associated with corruption when they are rich, when they have accumulated wealth. People always associate their wealth with corruption and milking the system and whatnot. But it was a different case with the former prime minister. He earned his money the right way, and he have gone far in politics. The only seat he did not hold was the presidency. But I mean, being a prime minister is next to the president, and he just wanted that niche on his career. I don't think it was something that he wanted to prove. He just thought having that was going to be the final goal, and unfortunately, he was not fortunate for that. But the fact that he came to politics with his own money, he came to politics, with his career path and doing all of that. That's what many African politicians need to mimic. You can be a politician, but have a career that people can say, okay, for instance, Mr. Tawo is an engineer, it's a gamer, is a social scientist, those kind of things. You cannot just, come to politics with nothing and hope that some way, somehow you become somebody, right? It is not required in America to be a lawyer to be a lawmaker. But over 65% of lawmakers in this country are lawyers. It's not a requirement. But over 65% of the lawmakers in the U.S. are all lawyers because they want to be able to craft laws that will reflect, the living condition, that people understand the law. We got lawmakers in Liberia today who doesn't, understand what is unfolding. We have a senator on the other platform who said the best way they could do the dual citizenship bill was to, put a restriction on Article 28 of the Constitution of Liberia. Said you cannot deprive a citizen to obtain another country's citizenship. And obtaining a citizenship does not take away your Liberian citizenship. But yet they put a restriction for a natural born citizen, all because they don't want people from the diaspora to compete with them. So that is a problem. So I want to sympathize with the people of Kenya. The brother said from Ethiopia, when I woke up, I had a lot of Kenyan friends on TikTok, and my FYP were going crazy. I was like, what's going on today in Kenya? And I saw that. I was like, oh, wow. Like you regularly said, there was no, news of his illness. So it came as a shock. But I wish the people of Kenya, my condolence, and pray that God comfort the immediate family. And, hopefully somebody can take up the footstep from a political party. Along these years, I know he has mentored a lot of young people who can, pick up the mantle from his party and keep the fire burning, so to speak, for lack of a better term, and have the party going on. Kenya, have gone far. They are not where they need to be, but they have done a whole lot better. We should give them credit and for what they have been able to accomplish. If you talk about the youthful population of Africa that is doing well, Kenyans are among them. Well, educationally, they rank top 7 among the 10 best countries in Africa that higher ranking educationally. They rank number 7. They are way above Nigeria, and so you can't underestimate Kenya. Right? So you call any big tech giant, like Google, the Amazon, that Microsoft, you'll find Kenyan engineers with those group. So yeah, I want to say condolence again to the people of Kenya.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to dive into Liberian politics, and then later on we'll come back and talk about the FIFA World Cup and my own friend and brother, Joseph Kabila. Kabila ran the country. They say he was corrupt. He ran away. Now he's coming back. He's trying to incite other people to join him so they can come back. He said to rescue the report, the DRC. We'll delve into that. But let's go to what is number one on our show here today. During last week, there was a bombshell in Liberia. For some reason, some people say it was a distraction to the massive turnout or the planning of events for the CDC. The GAC came up with a report that Liberia has been corrupt and that government officials were taking money from government. In some instances, it's so hard to believe that they would just walk to the central bank and say, the government owes me. And they say, where's your bag? And they just dump the money in there and you go. I mean, I'm trying to be facetious, but obviously that's what it sounds like. And it go all the way back to 1980. That's 45 years. And some people are saying, why you didn't go down to the Talbot and Totma era and see how they did it. But that's another story for another day. But here we are. Let me start with Mr. Kennedy here. This one will take a while for us to digest because it's voluminous. The CDC people can take it and create their own case against the United Party. United Party can take it and create their own case against them. Both of them can get together and say, we just did it like a football, somebody pass it on to us and we just ran with it. But talk to those people in the 70s and the 60s, they set this up. So kind of your take on the GAC report and ramification, and what do you think? Why was this done? Why? Who authorized this audit to go all the way back to 1980?
So before I come to the audit, I just wanted to talk a bit about debt.
Yes.
So debt is a macro issue because whenever you have a budget, like you have a budget.
Excuse me, which debt? The domestic debt or the overall debt?
So domestic debt is a component of your overall debt.
Okay.
So normally when you have debt, you have external debt and then you have domestic debt. So how does a country contract debt? When you have an annual year budget and your expenditure goes beyond your revenue, then the only way you can be able to cover up is to borrow. So that's where the debt comes in. Some of the debt are coming for development purposes, like you want to build road, you want to maybe provide electricity, you go and contract debt. It could be from the World Bank, from the IMF, and other things. Some of the debt that we contract on the domestic side is not for these kind of development purposes. It's for service delivery. So maybe there's a restaurant where the government issue a purchase order, they say, come and provide food for our workshop. And then when the workshop is done, the payment is not done. And so you have an entire department at the Ministry of Finance that is responsible for debt management. So they are the one that can record the debt. Some of these debt have long-term payment terms. Then we have to pay interest on them. So when the Civil War took place, for the 14 years that we went through the war, we're not paying our debt because we're just trying to survive. So that's how around 2008, I think around 2008 or 2010, when we had this $4 billion debt that was waived through the heavily indebted Poor Country Initiative, HIPIC. So much of that, the external debt that we had went away. And the purpose for which that was done was for us to be able to start development at fresh so that we are not overburdened by debt payment. In economics, they call it debt overhang. It's like you have so much debt, when you get money, you don't even buy food for yourself, but you worry about paying other people. So our external debt, when we went through HIPIC, went away. But when the Liberian government was going through the negotiation for HIPIC, it did not include domestic debt. And the international creditors had a problem with it. Why do you want us to waive your debt? And yet those who owe you, your own citizens, you don't want to waive they don't want to waive their debt. But the case was that, okay, these are struggling people, I mean, it's a domestic economy, it will affect our banking sector, so it did not go away. But then after our debt was waived, we started accumulating debt again. So I think around this point in time, our debt, external and domestic, is around 56 to 58%. When this current administration took over, it was around 58% of GDP. I think now it's down to 56%. I'm saying this because the domestic debt is a huge component of the overall debt that we have. Right now, I think we are around 2.1 or $2.2 billion in debt. And domestic is almost like $1 billion, which is part of it. And if you go and analyze that debt that we owe, some of it goes back as far back as 1980, 1990, Madam Salif, and on to the current regime. And this is not the first time the GAC is auditing this debt. Previously, the African Development Bank provided support, they were able to do it. The point I'm making about this debt at this point in time is that if the GAC audit is to be followed, where the GAC is saying that people don't have documentation to prove that the government actually owed them, if that is followed through and some of those claims are disqualified, then it will help to reduce our overall debt burden and create fiscal space. That means we are able to borrow more to support development. Also, there's an issue of transparency and accountability. If you really did not deliver a service to the government, why should the government pay you? That becomes corruption. So I think this is something that needs to be taken seriously. It shouldn't be something that is discussed after 1 week, is discussed on all of the platforms, and then it goes away. There are claims that there are companies that were established that did not even deliver service, and they are claiming that the government of Liberia should pay them. And for me, from my point of looking at our debt and the space that it takes away from development, if they can scrutinize this report to make sure anything that does not have documentation, it goes away, it will be able to reduce our debt, and it can create space for us to borrow or to be able to use the money that we are using to pay this debt for it to go into education and health. But I think this is something that needs to be taken seriously.
Let me go to Honorable Ducle. This is serious stuff. This sounds like corruption, systemic problem. We don't have any means like electronic system when someone comes and say, I perform, I delivered, let's say, I deliver food services to your trainee. There's no way we can go into the system. You say you deliver this service on the 4th of July, whether we actually were in service July 4th, whether we had something July 4th. We don't have any check and balance system. So we use our connection. You know Ducle there, Ducle, you know my man, the government told me they just wouldn't sign off on it without the corresponding paperwork. It looks like this is what we are looking at here. Year in a year out, 45 years in, 45 years out.
Yes, and I think
guys, please let's mute if you're not talking. I'm hearing a lot of grinding in the background.
Okay, I think everybody's muted. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, is it from you, Duke?
No.
You sure it's not from your earpiece?
No.
Okay. So we are going to mute and see. Is Michael Padmore still there? Michael, if you
it looks like it's from Michael. He turned his camera
Michael,
off,
if you're cooking your fufu, please make sure. But his mic looks like his mic is muted. Okay, guys, let everybody mute and let's see how we go.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. So
we're picking on you. Ducle, go ahead.
And I was muted. I have been muted. So
yeah, no,
so that's
it gotta be Ducle. Go ahead, Ducle.
Yeah, I think brother.
Yes, it is Ducle.
Yeah,
it's from him.
Yeah,
you gotta exit and come back.
No, I think
he need to take his headpiece off.
Yeah,
oh, if you're using a headpiece, yeah, I think the battery is low.
Take it off and plug it back again.
You're good. You're perfect right now.
Just speak without a headpiece.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
So, the domestic debt constituted probably a larger portion of the debt that we owe prior to the arrangement that was put in place when Madame Salif came to office, and because of all the intervening years of war and all the things that happened. But you see, Mr. Gaiman, what you have to bear in mind is that according to the the Ministry of Finance protocol and other departments, all what you just talk about is it all exists on the books. How the method of going through these awarding contracts, vendors, and all that is all written in black and white. But nobody followed those procedures, because when you follow those procedures, there's going to be a trail as to where this money was spent and how it was spent. And for those reasons, nobody cares to follow those rules. Nobody followed those protocols because they will be caught. And so, because I can dare say 75% of the money we are talking about were all stolen money, were meant for them it was meant for it to go into individuals' pockets, and nothing closer to what they are saying they went for. In other words, the money was not expended for the purposes that was declared. And so, for that reason, I mean, how can you give out, I don't know, whatever amount of money and no paper trail? Simply because Dukla works at this department, he goes to the bank and say, give this person this money. So what you see here, I mean, I see, even though the report itself is written with lots of discrepancies and a lot of questionable dealings.
Dukla, you got to take the earphone out, unplug it totally, unplug it.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, so now because of that, I think there was 77 questionable. I mean, there were many, but I mean, I guess 77 stood out. And when you go through those 77, you find that some of them were actually individuals that said they render services and they need to be reimbursed. Some of them were legislature, like a services from the legislature, like a vendors provided services to the legislature and they need to be paid. So when you look at the trail of those 77, more questionable, transaction, you find that these were all vendors that should have followed the procedure as laid out in the Ministry of Finance manual, but none of that was followed. And by the way, this is something that applies right across the board in Liberia, where people would deliberately sideline what needs to be done and do their own thing, and then later on they come and say, "Oh, the government owes me this. The government owes me that." In a country as poor as Liberia is, in a nation that is as in need of money as Liberia is, these are the things that we need to put in place to help us curb the waste. These are all part of the waste that is dragging us down. These are the ways that when we put them together, when we are able to arrest them, they will help. They will be able to afford benches for the students in the classroom. We'll be able to afford chalk for the teachers to teach. So, Mr. Gamer, what you see here is the symptom of what is wrong with us as a nation. And the cure lies in individuals, like we were just talking about Raila Odinga. Despite all what we have to say, you don't hear nobody, absolutely no one across Kenya saying to you, this guy is tainted in any corrupt activity. Because the source of his wealth is known, it's well documented. It was well known before he got into politics. For us, it's the complete opposite. We go into politics to enrich ourselves. That's why the Liberian government is the largest employer in the nation. Now, despite all what Kenya has gone through, Kenya is one of the, if people are talking about examples of development, if we are talking about how countries have come from nowhere to somewhere, Kenya is always up there in everything. And I mean everything. Because of, and I'm not in any way suggesting to you that Kenya is not corrupt. Despite all of that, look at where they are. So for us, it's the complete opposite. So what the GAC report tells us, it tells us what is wrong with our illness, where the illness, what kind of an illness that we have. Again, it boils down to that seem corrupt, and I'm bothered when some of our folks come here and say to us, "Oh,
this person hasn't been taken to court and found guilty for corruption, so he's not corrupt. That kind of a mindset that breed what we are in today. So we know the track record of all our legislatures, where they were before they became legislatures. The politicians, where they were before they became politicians. We knew where they were, and we know where they are today. How did that happen? From the same money that we borrowed from the World Bank, from the same money that we borrowed from the IMF, from the same money that we borrowed from our multilateral and bilateral partners in the name of development, and then we bring it in our country, and we squander, and we just embezzle, and then we just do all the things that we're not supposed to be doing, and then yet we sit down and come. I mean, look. I don't know if any of you saw this YouTube video on the social media where a gentleman who works for one of the legislatures was complaining that the legislature bought a car for one of his staffers. The other staffers are underpaid, and he's not. I mean, Anthony was just saying something about our legislatures. It is comical, to say the least. You know, these guys make $15,000 a month. A staffer makes $200 a month. I mean, how do you explain that? What justification there is for one legislator to have 6 staffers? 6. But again, these are the areas that, you know, and people don't pay attention. And I was saying this, I think it was on Thursday on this very platform. People say, oh, Alexander Cummings is look, the Liberian electorate is such that you need to pick up on something that resonates with them and blow it out of proportion. Tell them you're going to give them heaven, okay? You're going to bring heaven here and give it to them. Their life is going to be the best you can imagine. Just like all the politicians have done to them, when we know none of them would deliver. None of them would do nothing of what they are telling them. But that's what that sells. So the GAC report is just telling us the kind of illness that we have. Now we need to think about what medicine we need to take to cure that illness.
Thank you. Let me welcome Valley K. I don't even know what to call you, Valley VK. Sunday you
change your name every single week.
Yeah, every day you got a new name. I don't know. Welcome, whoever you are, welcome.
Yeah. Look, Mr. Give me the name you see is the official name. That's the name of my ancestor. All right, so thanks for having me. Look, I'm so sorry I'm late. I've been sitting back here like a dummy. I've been here for about an hour, actually, almost. Because I have all the security setting on my phone. My camera is blocked because I don't want to be tricked. And
we're looking for you.
I'm sitting here going, what the hell is wrong with Gilman?
I'm looking for you.
You never know. Yeah,
I look
at my phone. Everything is blocked. Even the microphone is blocked. I was like, no, this is not Gilman's fault. I gotta go back in there and fix it. I already almost 45 minutes before I noticed that. You know, wow. And Gilman would introduce them. I was like, why is that guy jumping over me? He said, because I'm a different man. So you know. But anyway.
You see, you might be man today. Someday you were born in Grand Bassa. Someday you were born in Sino.
But my nigga people can be born in. My nigga people can be born in Bummy. They can be born in Maryland. They can be born in Grand Juliet. You even got a my nigga man on here who were born in River G, right?
Okay.
Sherry.
That's right. I agree with my.
No, he was born in Grand Juliet at the time. That was River G at the time he was born.
Yeah. Honorable Gay.
Yes, sir.
You heard what Thomas said about he laid the foundation for how we derive where we are, and this is why when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came up with this bombastic statement about corruption and all of that, someone texted me and said, "Jerome, please don't mention Ellen Johnson and corruption because." She came to the Republic and told us her son took $30 million and she took full responsibility. She cannot come here now to say that Joseph Waka government is corrupt and corrupt is persistent because she doesn't have the moral character to hold anybody accountable for corruption. So here we are. The politicians now, instead of meeting with someone like Mr. Thomas B. Cannon and all of the folks to say, how do we remedy this? Some are saying, well, let's cherry pick. Let's begin by persecuting. Let's politicize this. Let's persecute it. I know someone had called me and said, one of my friends that work at the Port Authority said, we are going after Finabono. You will see, we'll put her in jail, array her in town. So everybody now find their own devil now. Because they want to mask what they have done. So now they want to, and they don't also talk about her son anymore. So she said, Joseph Waka government is corrupt. They are not following the rules and everything. People in the government, in the Joseph Waka government, are going to say, we're going to persecute people. You're going to see us. We're going to put them in jail. So the victim of this is us. Nothing has been solved. Your take on this?
Former President Salih is enjoying the Article 61 immunity, that she cannot be prosecuted once she's out of office, and so she's enjoying that. Who am I to, go after her at this point, because the law protects her. But look, number one thing here is that I'm not an economist. Let me outline that I'm an IT guy, but I can say for a fact that the problem in Liberia is fiscal discipline. You don't hear most of the politicians talk about fiscal discipline. They want to spend money that they don't have. They want to go outside of that. How can the national debt be more than twice the national budget, or even 3 times the national budget? That's a problem right there, just to begin with, right? That's a problem. The salary disparity in the country also another problem. You gave the current central bank governor 10,000 in salary, 7,000 in cash allowance, 5,000 in housing allowance. That's 22,000 right there. One man. What is he doing for Liberia to be paid X amount of money? I'm not even talking about his vehicle, his crash car, the generator. I didn't even mention none of that yet.
And his gasoline.
A police officer risking his whole life. Healthcare employees, 7 getting paid peanuts. 2 national budgets, 2024-2025. President Joseph Yuma Boaka signed into law $11.8 million United States dollars to our lawmakers that are already making extra money. Budget line item, legislative projects. For what reason? So this year, they did not get the 150,000 each that they're supposed to have gotten, because USAID pulled back $51 million. So they have to recast the budget. And so each senator received 75,000 and each lawmaker received 50,000. So that money that was $11.8 million from last year got cut to something around 9.8 million because of the recasting that happened. But because our national administration is not being fiscally disciplined, so they're just spending money the way they want to spend money, right? And where the money is supposed to be spent on salary and other activities, then they tend to borrow to pay people on time.
Yeah, but Mr. Gay, real quick, if the GSC report is right, people go to the central bank or wherever without the corresponding documentation to prove that government owes them, and they get paid. So
and that's the point I'm about to make now. So only a small portion of government transaction is digitized. For instance, if you had to pay for your passport, right, they will ask you to pay with mobile money. If you had to pay very few things, but the bulk of the issues are still, old-fashioned, because they all are milking the system. So they don't want no paper trail. Can we have the government transaction, all of government transaction digitized? Absolutely. It can be done. It can be done at a lower cost, and it will save the government a lot of money. It will cut down waste. But every one of them that in government, especially what the national security thing called NSA, they use NSA to liquidate money in Liberia because they say for NSA purposes, that national security issue, you're not supposed to question it. Boom, let the money get clear. The way administration use it, this administration is using it as well. So, would there be any kind of prosecution here? I doubt it. Why? Everyone of them doing the same thing. They will just talk about it and let it go. I want to challenge this administration to muster the courage so we can see people apprehended. Not cherry picking your political opponents, though, but everyone found within that in a spectrum should be held accountable. But guess what? They are all playing within that same playbook, so they're not going to go after one on their own. We are seeing this administration suspend people and they walk free. Somebody, admit to crime, they get suspended, they get relief of that post, and they walk away. No, it shouldn't be that way. Now I want to push back on Mr. Dukley. I know everybody and Mr. Tao also use this phrase.
Hurry up. Let's hurry up.
Yeah, let me go. Yeah, I'll talk on the thing too.
Let me close with this. Not because in the past we did not have people to move the country forward, so automatically the likes of Cummings or any other person will not move the country forward or will not do better. We should not, use one brush of, brush everybody the same, color and hope that, and think that that's the solution. There are good and competent Liberians who can move our country forward, and the only person who is now speaking about fiscal discipline in the public as a politician is Mr. Cummings. I'm yet to see any other politician who is doing that.
Okay, thank you. We'll send you the bill for a shameless plug for Cummings. A free PR for Cummings. Mr. Tower, let's look at. You see, we all know what the problem is. Like one of our full fake electronic is saying, solutions are always easy on paper, right? How do you take it from your head to the paper and to implementation? So all the book we're talking about, all the book we know, so we can alleviate this forever. How come we just can't get to it?
Okay, so that's very straightforward question, but real quick. On when I said I did not say that Kenya is not ahead. I just want to clarify this. I say in spite of what they have achieved, if they have spent the time to work in union instead of fighting each other for almost 50 years, imagine how far they could have gotten. That is a point that I made. So I just wanted to clarify that. And there should be a lesson to all the other African politicians. Stop fighting each other. You come together to fight for the country in one direction instead of pushing, pulling. But look, you see the thing that this report, in the first place is, I always have problem with the reports that only start at 1980. It's not that corruption, it's not that I'm trying to relegate it to the background or anything. But when it was time for some crimes that were committed in Liberia, economic and political and whatever, it started at 1980. When is this one, it started at 1980. So this is a problem for me. But look, firsthand, Mr. Gimman, I will tell you all this. I was in Liberia and I engaged two sectors because this whole domestic debt, I'm trying to show you something on the background, which you know, but as a first-hand person, experiencing some of it. LPRC was in deplorable condition. So somebody contacted me when we did all kinds of assessment. And there was some proposals that were put forth. The same thing happened at the IMO, at the Maritime. They came to me, I put together a proposal. But as I was putting this together, there were people already lined up trying to paddle whatever budget that I was going to give for the service that me and my team would provide to get this stuff up, right? Whatever service we could provide. So I said, but wait, hold on. If this stuff's supposed to be X amount of dollar, if you want for it to be 1.5 or 1 1/4 and 3/4, how do I justify for all this money that is going to come to me that I have to give back to you? I said, because, oh my man, you try to do this stuff like you think in America? These guys come from the US. These guys come from the US. So I said, no, I can't do that tomorrow. I will have to justify. Now, this is the reason why some of these stuffs are not written down. That is why I'm trying to tell you. It's possible that a lot of the debt are just fictitious, right? But there's some people actually provided real services. So how was this going to be done? The explanation they gave me was, I should just do the stuff, turn it in, and they will bring you to find out. They will call somebody who was senators. Some of these people were managing directors. And then we just go to central bank, and then they will just sign. So that is, I see individuals showing up at the central bank. So I look at it and I said, no. So I was being difficult. I was trying to do it like America. So I pulled back and I said, no, I can't do that. So the next, I said, okay, look at what I can do here. Put me in contact with the companies. I don't want to work with the government, the companies that use these facilities. Tell them I can do this for them and do that for them. Recommend me and my company, and let me provide direct service to the private sector. Because I didn't want, when I saw what was going on. So these are the kind of things that you see in Liberia. These guys that were trying to do this stuff there from the US here. So this stuff is now, when they come, people are here, they try their best to do the right thing. The moment they get back in Liberia, they're completely different people, because they see that the area is porous, they see that the place is weak, so they don't help. That is why when I hear about the so-called diaspora and so much come back home experts, some of these people are experts. But being an expert and having a love for your country and being committed, it's two different things. Most of the people from the diaspora don't live there. Foreigners cannot run a country and that country succeed. A whole bunch of from the diaspora will come back to Liberia. We're foreigners. Our commitment is not there. Our families are here. So these are some of the way the debt that you cannot explain, that don't know paper trail. That is how a whole bunch of them came about. Actually, I want to believe so. Because our approach on two fronts for this, and I back out of it. Because I had to be able to account for the money. I had to also be able to file taxes here in the US to see what I generate and earn there, and then file taxes in Liberia. So I was not going to get myself caught up into anything.
But Mr. Tao,
yes,
the percentage of diasporas that are involved in these things are very minute by comparison.
No, I'm not saying it is all diaspora. I'm saying the people, almost everybody that dealt with every area, Mr. Dukley, go to Liberia, almost all the very important areas since the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time, it is diaspora that occupying those places. All the critical areas, the most important, yes, almost diaspora occupy almost all the places in 2 to 3 to 4 tiers. I was there and I went everywhere. Okay, so we say we know much, we say we are this and that, and when we get to Liberia, this is my problem with the diasporan group. We have to pull out of government. If we say we're so smart, if we say
what's the topic? I forgot about the question.
If we say we have money, let us engage Liberia in the private sector, and let us empower the domestic population so that they can build capacity. They live there. It don't mean diaspora cannot occupy anywhere in government, but the fact that we don't live there, our commitment is not there, because we can run very bad system. We've seen it over almost 20 years. The moment things end and things getting bad, what we do, we jump on the plane and we fly back to the US and we leave the mess. That is the problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Valley.
Yeah.
We've been here. You and I, we all have been discussing this thing for I don't know how many years. We know the problem. We identify the problem year in and year out, but we just can't get to finding the solution.
Yeah. First of all, let's just clarify some things. We're saying a lot of good things with a lot of good intentions, but we're making a lot of misrepresentations here. We from the diaspora, we don't have any interest in Liberia. Mr. Gilman, do you have any farm in the United States? You got a farm in Liberia, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. The reason why you didn't bring that fund the same quantity and build in the United States because Liberia is where most of your interest is. This is where you make your money, but Liberia is where you invest for your raining days. So they say we in the diaspora, we don't have interest back there. We are foreigners. No, how the foreigner back there? Not all of us here. Another thing we must straighten up here is to say the lawmakers they're taking 15,000. That is far from the truth. They're not making 15,000 because people are watching us. People are fact checking us. You know. Mabaka, on the other hand, you can get through numbers around sometimes. 15,000. These guys make around 8,000 and change. And sometimes after taxes, they come to $6,000. Where they get most of their money from is those legislative projects and all those gamble they can play, those tricks and stuff. That's where they get their money from. But their salary is not as big as we think, even though it's over 4-figure, but it's not as big as we think. Even at that, I would agree that we should also cut it down even more. I don't think any of us should make more than $2,500 a month. That's what I'm thinking. Anthony Gay, the ANC man, just get up and said it listed a long list of things that the bank governor is making. He will not give us one evidence of those things. Bank governor is making a lot of money, but not as much as Anthony Gay is making it seem. Let us speak only on the basis of the facts. And Mr. Gilman, to your question, the solutions most of the time are there. The willpower to implement the solution is what is not there. Now, let me agree with the radical progressive Joseph Tao. Some of the decisions that are made there in Liberia are not made by Liberians sometimes. There are some issues that before a president acts, someone somewhere far overseas has to have an input. And one would think that at this time in our lives, something like that took place during the Cold War era should not be going on now, but it's still going on in places like Liberia or other countries that highly depend on other people for their survival and are now willing to utilize the natural resources, both human and mineral, to benefit their own people. So they threaten you if you don't do it this way, well, your World Bank support will be cut. And that is why sometimes you see a government come to power. The government is not as good compared to the previous government, but that government get more support from the West than some. For instance, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf won Peace Prize. I mean, come on now. The 1980 coup, she knew about it. The 1985 coup, she knew about it. The 1989 war, she knew about it. Law Rebel, she knew about it. But yet, she got a war. So it all depends on who worked directly with them in certain instances. And I'm not trying to shift blame here because we're grown people. We should make our own decisions. But that is how it works. But the solutions are there. Until you have a radical, a man who has no fear of death in Liberia, a lot of things will be taken care of in absolutely no time. Some of the guys that do the wrong things are so connected that sometimes you want to touch them, a phone call comes in. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, her administration was not during ancient time. This latest GSC report indicates that there were no sufficient record during her entire era, 12 years, for some of the expenditures that were made. But what you going to do to Ellen? There's no man with balls in Liberia who can touch Ellen because she's eating with a big gun. Her spoon is very long. So we have to have someone who will challenge the status quo and is willing to die and have no fear and is not worried about wealth or what will happen to their children when they die. They just go for Liberia and screw everybody else. And that's what we need at this particular point in time. But we believe that JMB is looking in that direction, and we think within the next 4 years, something radical will happen.
What direction? Dying?
No, well, he's 81. I mean, dying is...
No, you say you can look at somebody who is willing to die for the cause. That's what I'm asking. Is it a dime that he's going to do, or he's willing to do, or what?
Well, he is going to do those things that are needed for the Liberian people, regardless of who puts him under whatever pressure.
Okay, guys. We spent a lot of time on this. We got 40 minutes here. We can choose to do the controversial Iboma deals, or we can do the Dr. Nya, the firing of the Public Health Institute. Which one do you think we should tackle?
It's up to you.
I think let's take a minute to talk about those bills that were vetoed by the president.
Okay, let's go to the president veto several bills. Okay, President Joseph Walker vetoes bills for establishment of 9 townships and 2 new districts. See, President Joseph Yuma Walker has dealt the legislature a major setback by rejecting 11 bills seeking his approval for the creation of a new townships and district across Nima and Lofa counties. In a communication to the House of Representatives, President Joseph Walker cited administrative and statutory deficiencies as the basis for his veto, saying the bill fails to meet the legal standard outlined in the Local Government Act of 2018. The 11 bills in question included 9 proposals to establish 11 townships in Nima County and 2 seeking to create new districts, 1 in Nima and another in Lofa County. According to the president, the detailed review revealed that the proposed township did not satisfy Section 2.16E of the Local Government Act of 2018, which sets out the minimum requirement for the creation of townships and boroughs. Mr. Connor, you take a crack at this. I think the president on this one, looking at our wage bill, looking at how tight the budget is, I think he has a point here. This was it was too top heavy at this point.
You see, the basis on which the townships were created and the basis on which the president vetoed these bills all come from the Local Government Act of 2018. So after our civil war, we've been trying to move away from this centralized form of government where everything happens in Monrovia, including even buying chairs for our classrooms and buying ream of sheet for the schools that operate in Grand Judea and those that operate in Lofa and Grand Crow. So that law was passed in 2018. On through the regime of President Weir, credit to him, it was passed under his regime, but the drafting of the law was done by the Governance Commission when Dr. Sawyer was there. But President Salif did not manage to pass that law until she left. And some of the critical issues that were there were around like a city, because you have to set a threshold. So if you go through the law says, for instance, that after the passage of that law, the only places in Liberia that are considered to be cities are the capitals of the 15 counties, including Monrovia and Pinsville. And then every other place to be recognized as a city must go back and submit a request. And then they go through all of the requirements that are set to make sure that you qualify to be a city before you can be a city. Because I think Grand Crew has, Sino has around 20 some more cities. Grand Crew, I think, should have the highest.
Mr. Connor, don't make me laugh because I'm just looking at 10 or 20 New York cities in Grand Crew. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And the interesting part about these cities is that I've gone to all of the 15 counties in Liberia. Some of the cities in Grand Crew in Sino, the signboard that can welcome you to the town is bigger than the city. So you have to pass the signboard and pass on maybe behind it before you can actually see the city. But all of them have city mayors. They all have certain mayors, they have administrative staff. So when you hear the wage bill, these are the places that those resources are going. And then they have the country flag. So if you go to work in those smaller places that have 5 buildings, you have to meet the city mayor, you have to meet this person, that person. So the local government law was passed to address all of that. So it dissolved all of those cities. The local government law also dissolved statutory or districts. Because what is happening is that if you go to Sino, you go to Grand Cru, and you go to some of those counties, you have a statutory district that is overlaying an administrative district. So then they appoint a statutory district superintendent. Then you have a district commissioner. So what the local government law did was that after the passage of that law, 7 years into the passage, especially this year, all statutory districts should go away. We should no longer have a statutory district. The Ministry of Internal Affairs was asked to reassign all of those people who are serving as statutory district people. When you go through the structure, it recognizes different subnational government. So the county is the uppermost layer of subnational governments in Liberia. And then below the counties, you have the districts. And then you have the chiefdom that are still the traditional units. They are still there. The township is critical in the sense that the township is the lowest level of government structure within the Local Government Act. And there are different sections of that law. For instance, there is something they call equalization fund. So if one county is extremely poor, it doesn't have access to resources. When the national budget is done, we do revenue sharing. We can provide additional resources to that county for equalization purposes. And when those funds are allocated, it will be the township that will implement projects to be able to reduce poverty in their area. So that's why you see those townships. So you have the borough, you have the township. But the thing about the lawmakers is that the law has a lot of things for them to do. They didn't go to do them. They went to those ones that can politically bring reward to them by establishing these multiple townships. But there are requirements in the law. It says before you become a township, you must have a school, you must have a clinic, you should have a sanitation system and all of that.
Yeah.
But we've now developed the country over the past 178 years. So no township or no village or town has those requirements. And disregarding the requirements, they went and passed all of these laws. And then they sent it to the president. So it wasn't difficult to disqualify them. You just take the local government law, you read it, you go to that section, they don't meet the criteria, and therefore they should be dissolved. For instance, the law says that counties will now start to collect their own revenue, but the legislature had to transfer that responsibility to them. They have refused to do it. They have not done it now. So they are cherry picking in the law. Even President Boakai, there are different provisions. By 2027, the national government should no longer be collecting property taxes. It should be collected by local governments. But the LRA is still doing it. And I'm sure they will do it beyond 2027. So it's like everybody is just cherry picking in the law. So when they go to pick one point from there, the president also come and counter it. So there needs to be a holistic plan to implement this Local Government Act to really be able to move decision-making and governance outside Monrovia. But it's not happening. And on the districts, they did not even clarify whether they wanted to create administrative district in Lofa and Nimba, or they wanted to create statutory district. So the president just wrote back and said, "It's not clear what exactly you want to do." It also goes to the point of the quality of people we have in the house. They are passing laws and they don't even know what is in the laws.
Honorable Dugley, according to the president, he read the act to them. He said they amend this that any area seeking township status will have a population of at least 5,000 residents. 5,000 residents. Functional waste disposal system, access to education and healthcare, and a sports and recreation facility. Also, it should require cemetery ground, reliable transportation, communication system, and the presence of business services such as restaurants and retail shops. Hey, a Grand Cru have 40 cities, and they have 5,000 each. And they have restaurants, they have recreation center, they got hospital, they got transportation system, they got waste management. I'm telling you, boy, we would be way up. But look, I think like Thomas said, right? these guys go in and say, okay, we want to create jobs. We just want to create a city. Do you know how many people work in a city? City mayor, city commissioner, city that go all the way down, and they all coming from the government payroll, and they sitting there doing nothing. That's what we call the wage bill. Your take, Mr. Dukley.
You know, so Dennis, I think Thomas laid out exactly the way it was meant. You see, people were when Ellen took over in 2005, is it 2006? It was, and the idea was, you know, a lot of people were talking about decentralization, and that was one of the things that came out of the decentralization, and part of it was to give these counties some power to do some things for themselves, like collecting taxes and appointing some of their own officials, because everything shouldn't be centralized in Monrovia. But you see, this is the problem that is wrong with our system. The intention was clear, and the objectives laid out in the law is black and white. And yet, the people who are responsible for implementing these laws, which is the legislature, they were woefully ignoring those rules, and they were doing their own thing. And so because of that, and clearly, you could see that when President vetoed it, President actually pointed out to the law that says, here is what you need to do to have a township. Here are the elements that must exist in a township. I mean, what were they thinking? But again, I look at it from a perspective of people now wanting to do the right thing because the right thing doesn't serve their purpose. It's as simple as that. And so what the president did, probably one of the things that I don't normally do this. I will commend the president for vetoing this particular.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of the few times I would say kudos to the president, because I mean, this is just so simple, straightforward. It's clear that the legislatures are in it for themselves, and the 2018 laws lay everything out. But you see, Mr. Gaiman, it goes beyond that, and Taiwo touched on some of it in his when he was sort of letting us know of his personal experience. And this is in every sector, and so when I heard my brother say here, oh, the lawmakers don't make $15,000. Look, we know their salary on the book. They make $7,900. That is what the law said, $7,900, which is, after all, a very high salary compared to many other places. Tanzania, they make $888 per month, US dollars, $888. That is this is the salary on the book. If you factor in all the other amenities that come with that salary, it goes to $15,000. So I'm not off. I don't just throw the number off my head. No, I did my research and I look at it. The salary on the book is $7,900 United States dollars. That's what that is allocated to them in terms of salary. There are other things that come into play if you add them up, because those things are money too, spent by the government. So don't overlook those things. So we look at this township thing. The intention was to decentralize the government, decentralize some of these services. But has this decentralized been achieved? No. Why? Because the legislature, because some of the procedure that must take place has to come from the legislature to the local governments. And the people are deliberately ignoring them, doing their own thing, and sitting down on those laws because, practically speaking, they don't individually benefit from them. And so it's of no interest to them. Otherwise, this is very simple. It's very straightforward. The laws are clear as the sun and day. So there's really no excuse. But again, because they have no interest in it, because it doesn't serve their individual purposes, so they don't care. And again, what the president did, and I mean, why should the president even ask for clarification when the law is just as clear as it's written? What else do they want? But because they did not read their own. They did not read the legislation that was that created these laws, so they are not aware. We shouldn't be here.
Thank you. Mr. Taiwo, if we if we go by the requirement here for the city, I think Monroe will have problem even being a city.
I almost said that.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Buchanan will have problem being a city where you don't have recreation center, you don't have a waste management system, you don't have transportation system, you don't have like. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is a question I was able to ask. Who drew up this stuff? Because I was in Liberia, I visited a lot of areas like the fishery area that is on Coast Guard base, and the IMO, and even LRA. And what I found out was that a whole bunch of these policies under the Ellen government are coming were written out by so-called international partners. All these things were done without taking into consideration the domestic laws and customs and traditions. Look, Africans were never put on this earth to follow other people's ideas. Let us know this for a fact. If you cannot have the manual of an airplane and use it to sail a ship. Every people have their own stuff laid out on how to govern themselves. It don't mean you can get something, you can see an idea from here, but you have to modify it so it can suit your condition. The whole land law, because I'm just coming, because these are how the laws are written. The land law.
Don't take us around, man.
Could you please stop? For which the LLA was established. I went ahead and I looked at most of extra of that law. And what it meant, if you look at it, is to restrict people from having access to land. How in the heck do you come up and tell me that if I buy some land, I owe 5 years back taxes? Who came up with stuff like that? And when I started digging out USAID that actually wrote that study sponsored, and I took copy of it from the LRA when Finabono was there. I met with several 11 people who were involved in it. But these are the things that we have. So out of a certain somebody go buy land, you owe 5 years back taxes. That's criminal. So to my point, who came up with this stuff that you have to have sanitation, with management, all of this stuff? If that is the case, that I was just about to say that Monrovia is not a city. Nowhere in Liberia is a city, actually, other than the population, which is then of no use. But look, this is what I will say. The legislature, when Ellen, with the help of the Americans in the international community, strangulated our country. From 2005, I was screaming and shouting and talking to people that told me I was too negative and I was too this and I was too that. Remember, why would the United States government and the European cousins agree for a country like Liberia to have their legislature make more money than their parliament members? And they were subsidizing that. So throughout, the cry out for corruption was subsidizing corruption, because this was the goal. Yes, Thomas. Look, I know you come from that background. What sense does it make for you to encourage a people to take $15,000 and get all? If I was America and I know that our country is supposed to be able to live within its means, why would I agree for a country that is taking almost 90% or higher of its budget into recurring expenditure and its salaries and benefits, leave nothing else for development and the public sector, and I agree for them to subsidize them? No, I will force them and say, no, you can't do that. These salaries need to be at this level, and you need to look within your means. You made a statement here that if the government paid this down, then they have the means for them to borrow so that they can develop. No nation in the world developed through borrowing. Not even individuals can do that. Look in the United States, those that depend on debt are the poorest people. You have to be able to save and plan to actually push yourself forward with your borrowing. Have to be strategic. It's not. You cannot borrow your way into development. You cannot. But these are the kind of con games that the IMF and the World Bank play. You African, look, somebody made a statement here that there is none of those people that are in the race in Liberia can offer Liberia anything. And this is why. Anybody that is going to come to power that can actually move Liberia forward, in particular Africa in general, have to have a policy position. And our policy position is that we must take hold of our resources. We must build industries. No development can happen without industrialization. This whole development agenda goal that the World Bank and the IMF is pushing, why is it an industrialization agenda? Because you can never develop without industries. So they want to keep you indebted. So these are the things that we are seeing. So they write these things, and we have to look within ourselves. But when it comes to the lawmakers, these guys don't want to implement those stuff because they have country development funds. They will have to turn it over. Because if these places cannot handle their own resources, then there is no more country development fund for them to handle. So they drag their feet. The presidents know this. So they all play blind eye. They throw paper back and forth each other. I send my bill with my own corruption. I want to build a $10 million villa. Where he's even building the villa, is that a city or what? Or a county? So these are the things that we have. Look, the legislature is running around and they're doing this. You have to dissolve the legislature. They need to go. Liberia don't need that. Look, we need to restructure that country in the governing system will never work for us.
Thank you.
It has never worked anywhere. Somebody pointing at Kenya and all this stuff. Look at them with respect to their own position on what their actual capability is. They're not that much different from Liberia.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank
They're
you.
not that much different from Liberia.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man.
We got.
Can I make a quick point?
Yeah, go ahead. So I can go to Valley. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think the issue of vetoing these bills, I think it provides an opportunity. And I even posted this on my wall I think 2 days ago. The criteria that is set out there, we might look at it and say, okay, but we don't have these facilities. Then how can a place become a township? The message they sense now is that if you are representing your county or you representing your district, and there is a town in your area that reaches the population threshold of 5,000, you have to make sure that they have school, because school is a necessity. You have to make sure that they have clinic. The Ministry of Health has requirement as to what is the catchment area within which a clinic must be available for people to have access to it. So why this is seen like a stumbling block that, okay, no town can become a township, let's give it 1 to 2 years. These lawmakers should now make sure that the national resources that are allocated in the budget are going to those investments that are needed to qualify their individual locations to be township. And the essence of decentralization is to spread development so that services can reach out to the people out there. So let's just flip the coin. If you now want your town in Lofa to become a township in the next 2 years, they advocate for them to get a clinic, to get a school, to get a drainage system, and get the necessary things that they need. And that's how development is going to come. And that's the whole essence of decentralization.
You are correct, actually.
Thank you.
You're right.
Valley.
Yes, sir.
Here we are with the president. We say the legislators make the law and the executive implement the law. The president has done exactly what he's supposed to do. These people, some of them are using their position to create jobs for their constituents. They don't have the sophistication to go out and lobby to bring private sector jobs. So they want to use what they have to put a burden on the executive. They're not spending the money. They just putting all this thing in the president's lap, the executive lap, to pay their employees.
Yeah. First of all, let me just say that the decentralization bill that was passed in 2018, Thomas knows a lot. That bill is very decent. That bill is necessary if the Liberian government, by all means, was to cut down on waste and redirect some of their money in at implementing some of those things that are on this bill. Even, for example, cities. If you go to Kakata, you say Kakata is a city. Okay, it's true. But maybe there are 10 or 15 solid concrete buildings in Kakata. Everything else is mud to wood. But that's a city. So if they can just look at this bill, and I like when Thomas expose is solution based. If they can just look at this bill and say, you know, we need to look at this bill. If we will be a modern country, I mean, our cities should be modern. We can look at this bill and begin to make some changes. So these lawmakers, within a period of their first term, they're worth $3 million, 2 plus 3 millions, just individually. That's money some people will not make in their entire lifetime. So there are ways they can do this. And I'm waiting for the moment. I'm waiting, praying, and hoping for the moment that the president will actually say, you know what, enough is enough. You will make $2,000. And if we give you another $500, make it $2,500 per month, Mr. Lawmaker, you will have to purchase your own vehicles moving forward. All right? We can also say that it's time to implement this law so that the counties and districts or whatever can collect their own, we create the environment, we build the banking structure, rent it out to private agencies. The counties will be responsible to reimburse the national government. For, look, I always tell, like when I talk to my men on the back, I said development is not something you have to be sophisticated to do. Development derived from common sense. If you have common sense, you know what you need. You have an idea as to how to get what you need. It doesn't take rocket science. It just takes the will to do those things. And for somebody to say, oh, these things that the people put on paper, it can't be. No, that's not true. That's not true. We all live in modern times. We all need cities for what's standard cities, because it helps all of us. What is wrong with me having a pipe bomb water running in my house all the way somewhere inside the country? Is there something wrong with that? What is wrong with me having electricity in my town, so-called town? What is wrong with me having drainages? So I think if the government will close loopholes and focus on looking at this particular decentralization law and try to implement it to the letter, Liberia will be a place that everybody will want to go. So I don't think anybody should challenge this through any neo-colonial radicalism. Let us just focus on, if it is true, if the white man gave you an idea that is good for you, then it doesn't matter whether it was a white man who gave you the idea or not. The point is, how does that idea benefit you? All right? So even the white men themselves, a lot of the things that they stole from the Malian Empire, from the Zulu people. So you too can steal from them. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's just being overly proud.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of our show. We're going to go around and give each of our panelists 2 minutes to close. I know Mr. Deneja has a show at 7 o'clock, and he wants to delve into most of these issues, specifically the Dr. Nya and the national health. That particular issue has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and it's going to be around for a while. And hopefully, Mr. Kane, I don't know how long you're going to be here. How long are you in Ethiopia for?
So I'm actually working here. I didn't come to open the dam, like you said.
Oh, okay. The reason I'm asking is that project was totally locally funded. I wanted you to, in your closing, you can address that a little bit for us, because that is an achievement that maybe a lot of the other countries can model. Let me start with Mr. Tawo. Mr. Tawo, your 2 minute closing.
Okay, thanks for having me. It was a good show. Just like I said about the late Raleigh Odinga, he served his people. But just like I say again, he spent a lot of his energy as a young man instead of them actually moving forward as a single force. They fought each other all over the place. There were election violence, that people got killed. And this should be a lesson to us that if me and valiant. We try to be president and we cannot, and one person win. I should not spend the time trying to fight him, trying to tear the country down, calling on the other person to sanction and do all this stuff. Let us come together and work together. And let us learn this, because a lot of wasted energy in this whole political space instead of working together to fight each other. The next one is, look, each time I mention here about diasporans, every diasporan would seem to have some hidden agenda and they want to misconstrue the whole stuff. The reality here is that I never said all diasporans don't have the country I have. I said those going to serve in government. We have enough record not to prove that. From time immemorial, and then if we just take the last 20 or 21 years, we see the result. We see the result. No, Mr. Gimme having a farm or having a factory, that's the private sector. That is what I said. We should go and enter the private sector. But we cannot be the one to dominate the government. Every time the diaspora engage the government, you say you made a point here, Mr. Valley, that you are from Liberia. Nobody need to come and tell you to come home. But why do the diaspora do that? Because there's a way for them to sneak their way into government job. Then to me, it means the diasporan population generally have nothing to really offer the Liberia unless trying to go through government job, at least the group that want to join government. We see some of them here running from this party to this other and all this stuff. What is it for? None of these guys have anything to offer Liberia. Somebody want to talk about Comey. Comey talk about fiscal discipline. He speak of it, but none of them can lay out how it's going to happen, how they're going to implement it. They're all going to want, look, no country in this world, in Africa, okay, let me just say Africa, however advanced or move forward trying to use IMF and World Bank, unless you're not familiar with the Brentwood Conference that established them. Those two institutions were meant to subjugate the rest of the world, Africa in particular. Everything they do for you is predatory. You have to be able to, you can use them as last resort if needed for strategic areas. But you have to learn to generate resources from home and partner in different ways. Or you're going to end up with debt. When they were doing the debt relief in 2005, 2006, 2007, all this one when it came up, I was deeply involved in it, followed it. And look at what it was. It was a trap. All the countries that debt so-called forgiving went back in the debt faster. If you know, that is how most of the money-making institution infrastructure in Liberia ended up privatized. So if I owe $10 and I have to pay $8, or 8 cents every month, they forgave my debt. But in forgiving that debt, I have to give up something. So you gave up your money-making institution areas like they put in other areas. Now you don't have anywhere to generate resources from. So you have to go.
And what were privatizing Liberia?
The port is privatized.
How is the port privatized? No, you have a concession. You have a concession there, but the port is not privatized.
The port is privatized.
No,
okay.
The port is not privatized. That's not privatization.
Gentlemen, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Okay, guys. Let's.
Yeah, I'm about to close. I have shaping the Liberia, and I look at the payment sheet. This guy had one terminal and they control almost the whole port for 25 years. LEC is quasi-privatized. The problem that I have here is that if the government privatizes a place, then get out. Don't come and privatize a place where somebody just run a terminal. Tell me APM terminal since they've been in the so-called or concession. What improvement in terms of modernizing that port has ever really happened that is of any significant use? They're only extracting resources from that country. Then the government come and stick itself into the same area and then add its own cost on top of what APM terminal is charging. Out of a certain port, you can't even use it. People have to ship through Guinea and other places. And what that does, it takes money away from the country. So look at what happened here. Anybody that anybody that is going to come to power in Liberia or want to be in politics and lead like president, the message is they have to take complete control of the resources of that country move towards industrial-based economy instead of concessionary-based. No country move ahead trying to do concession, because they're extracting from there for less, and you get less and less, so you have the credit for you to bring back in what you need for you to live.
Thank you. Mr. Dukley.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Gaiman. It was a good show. Really, when you when you speak of Raila Odinga, you would say arguably he shaped the political history of Kenya, even more so than some people some presidents who have had the opportunity to head their countries. So Raila Odinga was the reason why there were some electoral reforms in Kenya, and profoundly shaping the history of Kenya in a non-violent way, in a way that everybody around the continent is now commending him. And so he also reconciled with Uhuru Kenyatta and put their differences aside to work for the betterment of Kenya. So I think he is an example that we would need to be replicated across the continent, and so where he brought Kenya from to where it is today, there's a huge difference in terms of development, in terms of reforms, in terms of political discourse in Kenya. So we should not underestimate that. And so he was a statesman, and that was why, rightly so, he was accorded a military funeral. So I mean, he's an example to all of us. See, we have always talked about this GAC and what it's supposed to do, and all the ways that all we talk about. But you see, we are yet to find someone with the courage to tackle these wastes. These wastes are the reason why we don't have equipped schools. These wastes are the reason why we don't have good roads and all the ills that we always speak about. People don't realize how much these things can impact our country. But just look at Tanzania, what they have done when they had John Magufuli, what he did. And so there are so many examples around us, and we need to keep talking about this. We need to keep holding the authorities' feet to the fire until such time that they have the courage to deal with some of these issues. Otherwise, they are not going to go away. They can't talk their way out of it. They can't cheat their way out of it. They have to deal with it. Otherwise, it's going to become a vicious cycle, if it hasn't already become a vicious cycle between these two political parties, the Unity Party and CDC. It's about time that we seek a third alternative, because the two parties have not done good for our country. And we had our hopes in Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and she laid the foundation for all the turmoil we're dealing with today in terms of corruption. So it's about time we start thinking about alternative, because trust me, CDC is not going to deliver, neither will Unity Party deliver. Thank you, Mr. Game. It was a pleasure being here today.
Thank you. See you. Hopefully we'll see you Sunday. Valley.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been a real wonderful show. The Freeport of Monrovia is so big. For anyone to reduce it to one terminal, the managing director was appointed by the president, the deputy, and all of his entourage. So I don't know how that can be considered private. But let me just say, like I said before, Mr. Gilman, the decentralization bill that we already have in the law should be enforced. The government should try to implement those things. Liberia needs that. It's about time that we don't no longer need to walk in the street with white chalks on our faces and chicken feathers on our heads to indicate, our stature in the society. Times have changed. It doesn't matter whether it's UN or whatsoever that comes up with a good idea. If it is a good idea, let us use it for the betterment of our people. Corruption in Liberia cannot be stopped, but corruption can be minimized to an extent where Liberians and the Liberian people would benefit from the extra cash. Individuals are living along with their children. That's all kinds of treatment they want, all kinds of vehicle they want to drive. You saw the former Senate Pro Tem, temporary, just bought a vehicle as speculated to be worth around $100,000. And that is what $100,000 can do for just his staffers alone. How many months can they be paid if you were to add extra $100 to each person's monthly wage just out of goodwill? But no, that's not going to happen. I think we have a lot of wicked people in our society, and we need to figure out how to actually weed these people from amongst the Liberian people just by their deeds. But again, it has been a wonderful show. I'm sorry for the delay. My own technicalities set me back. So it has been a great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you guys 1 minute each after we close. Either your political person of the week, your political play of the week, you have to have some. I'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Your political play of the week, the political person of the week, or organization of the week. Mr. Thomas, it's been a while since you and I interacted. It's great that you came on. Great to see you. I wish I had your spot in Ethiopia. All the beautiful ladies out there. But your closing, and in your closing,
small women, small women, very small.
No, look at this, man. Just keep quiet. Your political play of the week, political person of the week, political organization of the week. It could be international, it could be local. After you close.
Yeah, good show. It was nice journey, on point. I'm normally on. I used to be on Tough Talking Thursday, and these days I go on the show they have on Saturday on Kia Radio.
Right.
So it was good to join you all today. Going back to where we started, like I said, I was sympathetic to Kenya. Raila was a great guy. He was a great figure. Kenya also used him for a lot of engagements on the continent. Even when the South Sudan crisis started to flare up again, he was the one that Ruto sent there to go and intervene. So he was someone on the continent that he could deploy because of his long years of diplomatic engagements to be able to address issues of conflict on the continent. So it's not only a loss to Kenya, it's also a loss to the continent. On the GAC audit, like I was saying, debt in ASEP is not bad. Whether it is for countries or it is for individuals. This is why when I was talking about the debt initially, I said debt is a macro issue. You don't have enough savings in Liberia to be able to fund your own development. You have to go out there and borrow. You don't necessarily have to borrow for international financial institutions. You can go onto the market, but you don't even have a credit rating. So you can't go onto the market. Other advanced economies like Ghana, Senegal, and other places, they go on the Eurobond, they go and borrow. But you can't do that in Liberia because you are extremely poor. It is because we've not getting ourselves out of this cycle of poverty that we are in. So we can express any anger at these international institutions. For the fact that you've agreed to remain poor, that's where you are going to be. And other people have gone beyond that. We are as small as Rwanda, they have made progress. So we should be getting angry at our own people. It was not any international community that said that salaries in Liberia should be high. It was when Madam Sali brought other people who were heading state-owned enterprises and they were making 10,000, 5,000, 7,000 because she was trying to attract capacity back to Liberia. That's how the legislature started increasing their salary. It wasn't the U.S. government that told them to increase it. And the U.S. government has no authority to tell a sovereign nation, say, don't increase salary for your lawmakers. And Madam Sali herself said it, that I didn't give them the money, they took the money. So, we should not just be throwing these blames around. Oh, the land rights law. Okay, if they say you buy land, you have to pay tax because land is taxable. And one of the reasons in taxation why we tax land is we don't want people to buy it and keep it and they don't do any development on it. They just lay it down. So if you go buy a piece of land that was owned by someone who was not paying taxes, they say pay a little tax on it. That wasn't something that World Bank or IMF brought to us. On decentralization, we know that our major problem in that country has been centralization, and we're trying to solve that problem. Since the Civil War ended, there is no Liberian government entity that has been privatized. Privatized is to completely transfer a government institution to be a private entity. Having a concession at a location is different from privatizing an institution. So it was a great show. The local government law, I already spoke about that. I really wanted to talk about Dr. Nyan issue because for me, I think his removal is simply because people cannot stand up to that kind of quality, high level of educated person, independent thinking. I think that was the issue he had with the bull. Because they want him, if he want to post on Facebook, he must tell them first that I come post. If he want to have an interview, he must tell the bull first that I come have an interview. The bull is a policy institution that should be looking forward, not to manage the institution on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's a governance issue that we need to look at. What is the role of these bulls and what is the role of the management team? But overall, good show. Political president of the week, political institution of the week, you never know what to credit political actors in Liberia. They do something today, by the time you want to clap, then they go do something else. So I'll leave that to you.
Tell us about the dam.
Yes,
okay, the dam.
Yes.
So this dam was built for over a period of 15 years. And you know, this country is like Liberia that wasn't colonized, but we are a bit different because ours, the free slave scheme, so we became westernized and all of that. They have been by themselves. So they have this tendency of doing everything by themselves. You imagine in this country, when I came here, I was surprised. You don't see the Lebanese here. You don't see a lot of Indians owning business. No foreign bank is in this country. They just open it up for people to come. Everything here is owned by themselves. So when they started that dam, nobody was borrowing them. Nobody was giving them money. So they actually raised the money by themselves. Even beggars on the street were begging to go and contribute to the dam. Their diaspora stood up to them. And then eventually, after 15 years, after a couple of prime ministers, they were able to complete it. So I think the message, and now is the biggest dam on the continent, funded by themselves. So the message that they sense is that, like in our country, we love doing small things, very little things. Somebody go pin building, then we start celebrating. We put one light pole, we start celebrating. We need to do something big and also call the diaspora and everybody else to put money inside so that we can be able to do it. But it's a history of committing themselves to it, contributing to it, and in the end, they were able to deliver on it.
This is what we call governmental continuity. Not because the first guy started in 3 years, so you left it. They continue to build upon it until they reach to where they are. They didn't care who took credit. But they start 15 years.
Yeah. And Thomas, I assume the engineers and people that are working over us.
And that's what we want to tell the citizens.
1 minute.
That's what we want to tell the citizens. When they tell, that Jawea project. That's Jawea project.
Dugle, your political person, political institution, political play, it could be national, it could be international. It could be Cape Verde, it could be the dam, it could be Rally Odinga, it could be something that happened in Liberia. Your political play of the week.
I think it has to be Raila Odinga, I must say.
Okay. Rally Odinga for his work he has done. This is a man who lost 5 presidential elections, but every time it was over with, he would stand an arm of congratulation and work with them. He didn't say, let's go start war, let's go do this. So yes, I agree with you. Mr. Tawo.
Yeah, my political person of the week is Valley K. because this guy, I came here with him during CDC, and he critiqued everything, and he levied allegations, and he charged people. Then Bouaka come to power, and this guy's a completely different person. The same things that Wea did, Bouaka government is doing it now, and you can't just say this. There are people watching, and people are listening, and he's tiptoeing around everything. The same thing that he criticized. So he's not a real politician because he told us we have to learn how to play the Liberian politics, and he's playing it very well.
Thank you. Valley, you are the man of the week. Go ahead, your political play event of the week.
Joseph Bogey, I just enjoy how he just push that thing about the legislature, the crap from here, man. And I'm signing it. You know, that was beautiful.
I agree
That
with
didn't
you.
make no sense.
That was a good. That's something that will stay. It will become. Hopefully, he continue to do that. That was great. I got to applaud him for that.
Mr. Gaiman, I wanted to emphasize that the dam that was built by Ethiopia, it was done by all local talent, local expertise.
Oh yeah, that's what Mr. Kano was saying here. But my political play of the week has to be a pride of Africa, and I have to take my hat off to Cape Verde, a country of 350,000 people, total people in the country, and they made it to the World Cup. How is that possible? They beat
Cameroon of all countries.
Yeah, they beat Cameroon. They beat all the big giants, and they are making it to the Cape Verde. Became the third debutant to qualify for the 2026, and the smallest in world history.
Yes.
I mean, it is amazing what people can do when they are united and decide. We talk about the dam here, right? The people of Ethiopia, they talk about, we're not talking about millions, we're talking about billions.
Yes.
And they raise that locally. People join together and say, this is what we want to do. They forecast, they rally around it, president in, president out, even with the conflict.
Africa is changing.
They kept that goal going. And they achieve it now. Another big thing happening in Ethiopia, Dakonte has just moved there now. They're going to build the largest fertilizer plant in West Africa and fourth in the world. I mean, in Africa.
Africa is changing. Africa is changing.
So this is what we are talking about. They were not able to attract those kinds of stuff. And they were like biting each other, pulling other people down. But people are attracted to success. So we have to give out to Cape Verde and Ethiopia for a great job. And next Sunday, Honorable Conan, if you have the time, next Sunday, come by, let's discuss. This is what the people want to talk substance. So Cape Verde, I look forward to seeing you. 350,000 people making it to the World Cup is history in the making.
Ethiopia also building a refinery, so let me add that in.
But I mean, don't make me move to Ethiopia.
No, I'm just telling you, they're building a refinery.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Hopefully we get.
Is that true, Dangote?
No,
yeah, Dangote moved there.
I don't know. The fertilizer plant with Dangote, but the refinery is the state is like, I think, internal. Because I read on it like about several weeks ago.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Let's look forward to talking again Sunday. Let's discuss. Come up with some idea what we didn't discuss today. Let's discuss it next week. Mr. Michael Patton, as always, can you take us out?
Are
you still eating your fufu?
Mr. Gaiman, I want you to read this.
The world needs make America great again. That's what it is, my God.
Are you ashamed to say the world need more of Canada?
I heard more of America. you need more Trump. Okay, guys, let me see where it looks like Michael Patmore.
Thank you, Thomas. It was a pleasure to see you again, Thomas.
Yeah, let me see where Michael Patmore is. Geez. Yes, great show. I
said it was nice seeing Mr. Tao.
Yes, Mr. Tao, your homeboys are saying you are the man. Okay, so we're going to say here, our friends, where's our jingle here? We are all Liberian. What is wrong with this man? Closing.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our